You are a very powerful manifester. You make it look easy. You really is it?
Thank you. Oh my gosh. The simpler things are the hardest to grasp. That's like the best way to describe magic for me and manifesting and stuff. It's a lot more inner work. But basically, I had to learn how to trust myself, and I had to learn how to trust my heart and really have an ego death. Like, as it comes down to manifesting, it does come down to letting go and not trying to manifest too big right away either. Manifest inner healing first.
Hello, starseeds. I'm Charles Chudabala, and welcome to the Uncaged Mindset Podcast, where we talk all things spiritual awakening and interview the healers and light workers who are out there radiating their light. But before I get to introduce today's super magical guest, please take a moment and smash that like button and subscribe. We're building a community of light, and everyone is invited. Okay, today I am so excited. I have to collect myself because we have a very, very, very special treat for you. Today, we are learning how to connect with our inner power, our inner magic, and yes, our inner witch. I said our inner witch. Okay, by the end, you'll learn how to do that. From conquering the acting world and manifesting through every creative outlet. And now, spreading love and light through what I like to call high vibrational music. Transforming the indie pop genre, creating a genre really. Please welcome a very kindred spirit to me, a very magical friend to me, my magical friend, Starchild.
Hello. Hi. Yes, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is such an amazing space. I'm so happy you have this. And I'm just so happy to be here, honestly. Like, just thank you. And thank you for that introduction. Like, again, it's music to my ears. You need to hear confirmations like that, and I feel like we don't give ourselves that too much. So thank you for that.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's good to hear it again. And for anyone, full disclosure, let's start the podcast with full transparency.
Yes.
We went like 5 minutes into the interview. We weren't recording. Recording.
Jump right in.
We got to do it again. If you experience our vibration a little extra high, that's a good thing. It's because we get to do it twice.
Yes, take two.
But we're going to learn about the rule of three later.
Yes.
So I am so excited to have you here. We met over 2 years ago. Can you believe it?
Has it been 2 years?
Oh, over.
What?
Over.
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I remember how we met. Do you remember how we met?
Of course, I remember how we met. Yes, shout out to Totally Studios. Thank you for connecting
Studios.
Us. Yes, those iconic videos. They're gonna be digging through our history when we're big and famous. Yes. They're like, oh my god, they met here.
Well, for people who are listening who don't know what Totally Studios is,
shout out.
You describe it.
Totally Studios is Disney Channel for YouTube. It is very funny after school specials, overacting, improv, but just fun nonetheless. Kids love them, children love them, and that's what we make it for. We're there to have fun. We're there to do what we love. We love to act, act silly and pretend. So honestly, I have great memories from Totally Studios.
Oh, well, you are one of my best memories of Totally Studios. I have a lot of great memories, but you are probably one of my favorite memories because your energy coming in, just raising the vibration in the place, elevating our consciousness in the place, from yes. And the only thing I regret is just not having more time to talk about anything other than, finding getting into wardrobe 8 times.
Right. Making sure we got lunch correct.
Yeah. Shooting the right episode.
Right. That part. Yes. Making sure your eye line is proper and you're, sheeted to the side.
Oh, proper eye line is debatable. But
right. But yes, I feel the same. When I first met you, when I got on set that day, everyone was so nice and everyone was talking about you and how nice you were and how helpful you are, just like how you're like the heart of the set. And yeah, when I finally got to meet you, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is literally one of the sweetest people that exists. And like the way you put your energy out, how just like helpful and encouraging you are. And like you make anyone who's like new to the set, you know, very comfortable, and you know how to break down the walls very easily. So yeah.
Well, thank you for your kind words, but I will reciprocate that and say it's completely mutual. Feeling like home, feeling like any outsider or any person who is looking to connect back to a feeling of home, that's what you bring. And that's why it's so special to have you here today. And I am going to start with you, with your journey, with your story. Share wherever you'd like to begin, from the beginning, wherever. How was Starchild born?
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for, you know, taking the initiative to create a space like this. This is hard work. You know what I mean? You emailed me what you emailed, and I was like, that's so professional. Oh my God. Like so you are killing the game right now. First off, some light back to you. But yes, Starchild, it's a combination of a lot of things. I would kind of take you to the way back, you know, of how my mysticality has always just been there. And, you know, Starchild was basically created in 2017, which when I really discovered like my inner self and my inner power. But before that, when I was a child, you know, my parents, people would always tell my parents that like this child is special. Like this, like first off, for my birth, was born on a Sunday. Okay, first off, yeah.
Well, okay. Right now, the show right now, and we haven't talked about this yet.
So, no, it's new.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, So I was born on a Sunday in the afternoon, and my aunts always talk about it, that it felt so magical because like the doctors put me in my mom's stomach, and I climbed all the way up so I could feed and like breastfeed and stuff. And they were like, what the heck? So I've always just been an independent being from out the womb, like literally. So, and they're like, this is so magical. And so everything from there, like kind of set the prophecy a bit. And yeah, ever since I was a child, like I've always just been very tuned in, you know, to the spiritual world. And like, I didn't realize it when I was a child because I was a child. So I thought it was pretend, you know, I thought these are my imaginary friends, and like, you know, and I never necessarily like had mystical experiences where I've seen like apparitions and actual spirits, but it was more like, you know, so what's the clair with your ears?
Clairaudient.
Clairaudient, thank you. It was very more clairaudient at first, you know, more of like clairaudient and clairsentient, you know, knowing that another being is around and like just like being a mouthpiece a little bit. So yeah, I've always kind of had a psychic ability, and adults around me have definitely noticed it. And like, I've always had like a kind of like a healing touch without me recognizing it. Cause like my mom's friends and stuff, like they would like ask me just questions about things, and I would kind of know something about their grandma or whatever, you know. And my mom's mom, she passed away when my mom was 10. And so, but when I was a child, like, my mom would like growing up now, and she would tell me these stories that I would like come home from school, be like, yeah, I had a hard time on, you know, math or something, but grandma came down from heaven and helped me and stuff. So like, I was very like in tune with the spirit world. And, but I thought I was a child, you know, I didn't think anything of it. You know, That's a Raven was on during the time. So I was like,
That's a Raven.
You know, I was like, I'm just pretending, you know, it's fine. Yeah. But as I get older, you know, I started realizing that, you know, spirituality magic is very real. My dad is a very big advocator, you know, in my spirituality without realizing it. And he, by the time I was like 7, 8 years old, he was like teaching me like there's good and bad in everything. You know, there's good and bad in humans, there's good and bad in children, there's good and bad in adults, and there's obviously good and bad in magic. You know, so good and bad witches. You know, like, and he was just really good at explaining like as long as you have the higher power in front of your magic or in front of your spirituality, like that's true light, you know what I mean? That is true intention. And so he was just really good at explaining like, you know, having clear intentions of light and moving forward within that, you should be protected, you know? And so, yes, by the time I was 9 years old, I had a best friend, and she was 3 years older than me. So she was going to middle school, and middle school is a very, very, very rough time. But we were always going to the library and stuff like that. And so when we went to the library, she found a teen witchcraft book, leave it to the library. And that's how we figured out, like, oh, because we were younger, we would always pretend to be witches and stuff like that, like magical beings, like just pretend, but then you grow up a little more and you recognize, like, oh, like this isn't pretend. This isn't like Disney either, though. And so I took the role of the observer, and she was the older one, so she took the role of being the practitioner. And when you're a teenager, you know what I mean, you don't read about rules of spirituality, laws of three, and things coming back to you. You know what I mean? Like, she was going wild, cursing people, voodoo dolls, all the works. You know what I mean? Like, and her consequences came back real fast and got haunted and stuff. So I got to like witness the spiritual world first and foremost, when I was really young, like that. And so I was like, okay, huh?
Like dark entities followed you home?
Not me, thank God. Oh. I was an observer to her. Her life. Let's just say, I always wonder what her life would have been like if she didn't mess with the energy that young and not knowing the consequences that were to pan out. She's living an awesome life now, but she had a very, very rough, like, middle school to high school, like, and I'm assuming it's because of, not knowing the spiritual laws and practices and stuff. You're a child. So that really did show me, like, okay, witchcraft isn't a movie. It is real, and there's big consequences to it. And so that's when the movie The Craft came into my life, as one which in post 90s does. And that's where my dad opened up a lot of those conversations, told me about, things in Mexico and, good witches and bad witches. And it really came down to that quote, of just like, magic is not black or white, it's the heart of the witch, it's the heart of the practitioner, and so I really took that. And so, because at that time I was a believer, I am a believer of God, but I didn't believe in organized religion anymore. And I was like, so where do I fit, and so I was like, I'm just spiritual. And then, but I always knew I had a psychic bone in me. So just researching and reading all aspects of spirituality. So from biblical literature, and a little bit of like, what witchcraft is and stuff like that. And like the general, like, rules of magic. And then when I graduated high school, went to college, I was a little like, I don't know what I believe. And then when I came back, because I couldn't afford school anymore, that's when the real journey began. So that takes me back to 2017. That is where my full spiritual awakening happened. I was reading a lot more about philosophy and metaphysics, and recognizing that magic is a science. It's not just mysticality anymore. You know what I mean? There's quantum physics back behind it now. There's so many authors I was reading from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 2000s. I'm just like, oh, dang, they've been talking about this for so long, And so that's where I started listening to a lot of music from the 60s and the 70s, because I've always been surrounded by these artists, but I've never really like listened to their music. So Jim Morrison, so The Doors, really opened my perspective up. And I was listening to obviously a lot of Lana Del Rey, and she came out, and that's when she was in her peak witch genre era. Okay, her Lust for Life era, casting hexes on Donald Trump and shit, like, iconic. We love it. So I was like, Mother Queen's a witch, so I'm a witch. But no, so I was listening to a lot of her. I was listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac. I was listening to Queen. I was listening to the Beatles and Bowie, and just like plugging all of the art together and recognizing, like, oh, they're talking about a sun figure, a sun being coming back, like, in the future, and like, guiding the souls that are lost, into the realms of divinity. And like you said, demystifying it, and plugging it all in together for the people who don't have the time to read and don't have the ability like I did. I was blessed with good parents that, allowed me to be in my room and read all these books. Not everybody's blessed with that, and so it was a lot of me just like self-prophesizing, and so a lot of the compliments I've always received in my life is like, oh my God, you shine as bright as the sun, or like, you're very sunny. Like, I love the energy you bring. And California, I'm born in California, so it's like the sun is like, SoCal primarily too, so the sun is like very like prominent in my life, and I didn't recognize like my love for the sun until I was 20 and coming into my own. And so yeah, I was just kind of compiling all of those things. And so I got really into sun lore and sun literature and sun mysticism. And I recognized like that's the piece, you know, that we're all missing. You know what I mean? When you look at the word, the son of God, you know what I mean? When you look at words, you know, you just replace the O with the U, you know, it's like you recognize like the sun, we revolve around it. It's the life giver. Without it, we perish. You know what I mean? And like every season we celebrate it. And that's what, you know, if you translate the Bible correctly, you know, you translate, you know, the Egyptian prophecies, the Greek prophecies, there's always a sun God, there's always a sun being, you know? And so, yeah, that's where kind of I started recognizing, like, I think this is what I want to give to the world. You know, this is who I am. Like, I do feel connected to these beings. I felt connected to Apollo. I felt connected to Osiris and Hermes Trismegistes and, you know, all of these great sun figures, and then down to Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? I recognize like why that story is important, which we'll kind of get into a little later. But so throughout that process, I listened to The Weeknd and Lingerie's Star Boy, Star Girl. And when I was doing my readings and stuff, I saw that Starchild was a symbol of the sun, and it like clicked in my brain. I was like, oh my God, I'm what they're talking about. Like all like the Sun King from the Beatles and stuff. Like I was like, that is my soul they're talking about. I think they're talking about me. Like I don't want to be conceited, but I was just like, you know what I mean? I was like in my little 20-year-old brain, like that all made sense, and it still does. And I was just like, okay, like I didn't recognize that I was initiating myself into this role. And, you know, I'm a big believer of like the world being a cosmic stage, a cosmic theater, you know? And so I was like, if I'm going to take on this role, I'm going to take it on, and we're going to do it. And so, but yeah, I was like, and I was coming into my music at that time too. I was transitioning from acting and, well, I was still acting, but I was getting into singing and getting into music and songwriting and really letting that kind of come back to me. Cause I used to write a lot of poems and stuff when I was a child and throughout my life, but I never really sat to actually formulate like songs. And so I was like, you know what? Like, you got your star boy, you got your star girl. I'll be their star child, you know? So that's how Starchild came to be. And yeah, from there, it really did kind of build and take a life of its own, because I recognize, like, you know, if I'm going to go into this industry, like, I need to have my checks and balances. So, like, Marcus Alvarado, that is my human, you know, that's my businessman, my straw man, you know, that I sign the checks, I sign you know, I'm going through the mundane of it all. And then Marcus Apollo, I created that stage name for acting for the screen because it still represents the sun, because Apollo, but, you know, you get a piece of me because I'm still like, you know, the human, but I'm bringing, you know, another person inside me with my character work, you know what I mean? So I wanted just to have that separation, because like I know when fame strikes, you know, like people will see me just for that name, and then Starchild came for the music and everything in between, like theater and all of that performance. So I was like, I have three entities, you know what I mean? Like I have businessman Marcus Alvarado, the human, you know, that has to do all the day to day and make sure I'm not, you know, checking my brain and making sure that's in balance and I'm feeding myself correctly and all that. And then yeah, the spirits inside of me, you know, is, you know, the actor and, you know, the performer. And so yeah, that's how I kind of mysticized myself, and that's where kind of Starchild began. And yeah, I read so many books. My favorite book for people out there beginning this journey, it's The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. If you haven't heard of it, it's a giant, almost 1,000-page book, but it takes you through all of the philosophy from the ancient world all the way up to the 1920s, because that's where he wrote. And this writer, this philosopher, Manly P. Hall, he was in a time when the industrial age was booming and people were cutting themselves off from source and forgetting about their past and their history and where we come from. And so it's a really amazing book to chronicleize the spiritual movements that happened within Earth for the last, you know, thousands of years. So he goes through all the mystery schools, all the way down to, you know, Masons and everything in between, you know, where we've led to today, and talks about, he has really good books called The Secret Destiny of America as well, which talks about, like, you know, our founding fathers finding this country upon metaphysical and spiritual philosophy and freedom versus, you know, people get it in their heads that, you know, our founding fathers were Quakers or something, you know, Puritans. And it's like, no, we didn't find this on elite Christianity. You know, we founded it upon, you know, philosophical, spiritual integrity. And so Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, our founding fathers are magicians. They're Freemason magicians. So it's like we practice ritualistic spell casting. So it's like, we forget that America is very naturally spiritual, and so he just does a really good job at also separating America as a country and talking about North America as a continent, and like speaking about the history of that. It's always been the continent of North America has always been a spiritual rebirth or reboot. You know what I mean? Like it's always been seen as cleansing the bloodshed of the East, and we're going to the West and we're rewriting the rules, but that's a lot easier said than done, so that's why like America is the baby country that we are, because we can rewrite history if we really, and in some cases, that is happening in the most corrupt way, but you really think about our destiny, you know what I mean? That is America's destiny, is to cleanse the blood, that has been shed through millennia in the East of figuring itself out. And so, yeah, that's why like I love that song from Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's like the sun may rise in the East, but at least it sets in the final beautiful location. And, living on the edge of the West Coast, growing up here, I recognize like how blessed I am. And, I can't take my opportunities for granted. And unfortunately, growing up, though, you see a lot of people who do take their, fortunes for granted, and they don't appreciate, that they live 20 minutes down the road from, broadcast media where you could broadcast your ideas and thoughts to the whole entire world if you figure out how to get your broadcast signal heard, And so, yeah, I don't know. That's basically how Starchild was born, is through those books. And I have a lot of books that I've read that really helped me. And so anyone who's getting into spirituality, my advice always is just read everything you can before you practice, because that's, I think, the role I took for a very long time. And so, yeah, 2017, that's when I was like, I'm a witch. I figured it out. It is who I am. Witchcraft is not evil. Everyone is like just so caught up in superstition and religious trauma, and that's okay, and that's fine. And like, now I'm, what's 2017 is like, what, 7 years ago now, 8 years? I don't even know at this point, but I'm so into the journey now that it's like, no, okay, cool. I've done my shadow work now. We've got past that, and like we're in a zone where, I'm in tune with my past lives now. And it's like not all like what people think. Like people think like you were viewing it like a movie, and it's all intuition. It's all feeling, and it's all like flashes of energy, So
Wow.
Yeah, that's like the long-winded answer.
Oh, that was the present answer. That was the answer from the heart space, from the energetic space. And that was the answer that like literally touched my soul, because I learned so much about your journey. Well, first of all, I'm so glad that you've embraced your magic. I am so like happy.
Thank you.
I say thank you on behalf of just like people and humanity, because you're touching so many people with your music, and you use the word broadcasting to like broadcasting your magic outward, that things can be broadcast to a wider net. And that is what you're doing. That is what you're doing with your magic. That's what you're doing with your words, with your poetry, and stepping into Starchild. Like I love it. That we got Starboy, Stargirl, we got Starchild.
Yeah.
And you're taking that sun energy, you're demystifying the process, which is like I was telling you before we started recording that there's only one pandemic really, and that is fear. And people fear what they don't understand. And more information is coming out. It's more available to people for those who want to access it, they can.
Yeah, exactly.
If they really truly want to, if they are a seeker, they can. And I love what you said, that magic is a science. Now, just on a wider scale, just feeling into the energy of like the planet and the heart space, or maybe what your guides tell you, and in your relationship with the sun, what is your feeling on humanity's awakening right now? Do you think more people are slowly able to access this information? Do you think more people are waking up right now?
Yeah, totally. I thought back when I was 20, I was going through this in 2017. I thought we're gonna, like you're so hopeful, and you like everything between, you think in 5 years, things are gonna look so different. And so I recognize now this year, like these past 2 years, I was like, oh yeah, like it's a slower process. Like the people who were supposed to awaken back then are supposed to be in this position now, because we're more level-headed and we are more articulate now. You know, we can articulate our emotions and our feelings. And I know for a fact I would not be able to have these conversations on camera, you know, if I was 21, you know, just discovering this and being so excited about this, and then, you know, trying to defend it, you know, is like the hardest part if you don't have all your ducks in a row, you know, and you don't, you know multiple authors, and you don't have your sustainable, you know, where the mystical sides of us, we're very intuitional based and we draw from there. But we do, if we are going to, like I said, broadcast this, we need to be backed, you know, with the logic as well, because that's, like you said, the way to demystify, you know, and break down superstition. Because, like you said, superstition is just fear of the unknown, because there's no access to education and it's not promoted. And but like we said, we live in an age now where all information is on the palm of our hand. So it's like you said, if you want to seek the truth is out there. And I always, what I noticed in my journey going to Barnes and Noble, you could find all these books in Barnes and Noble. First and foremost, you don't have to go.
Barnes and Noble, they're not sponsoring this video, but maybe they will.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
This episode, we're so
hashtag not spon.
Thank you.
Sponsor us, Barnes, Mr. Noble, please. But yeah, so going to get these books, you know, in Barnes and Noble of all places, you turn around, so you're in the it's the spirituality and the philosophy section. But you turn around, in some Barnes and Nobles, literally bookshelves right here. I'm looking at a book. I turn this side, and it's the Christianity section. You know what I mean? So it's like these people legit just need to turn around and look at the books in front of them and look at what is all, you know. And yeah, and so, but with that point being said about gaining logic and stuff, so I definitely did go back and because I went to like Bible studies and stuff like that, and I knew the main stories, but I really went back with now a mystical eye, and like, you know, because all these other books were pulling excerpts, you know, from the Bible, and, you know, showing that like, hey, this is talking about supernaturalism, and, you know, we're talking like just the words in general are so powerful. And so, long story short, the conclusions that I've made, you know, from going back and, you know, rereading those mystical texts is that it is just a giant, you know, book that is explaining our humans' thematic structures, what we go through and what we will constantly go through if we cut ourselves off from source and just plug fully into the physical, and we never give in to the spiritual. And so unfortunately, a lot of people take these words literally, and they don't recognize that they're not equipped to read a 1,000-page book of literature if they don't know how to read a 1,000-page book in general. You know what I mean? If you don't know how to read, maybe we should not be casting stones at people for misinterpretations because you went to someone to interpret for you. So a lot of people don't recognize this religion was created because people in the community did not know how to read, but somebody did. And so they would go to this person that knew how to read and be like, hey, I have this problem. I don't know how to figure it out. And they're like, oh my God, this reminds me of the story that I read in this book. Let me hop through it, read you it. What do you think about it? And then they'll explain, you know, how they can kind of take something from it, and then they go about their way. But unfortunately, you know, once, you know, religion began being politicized, you know, through a king, it became, you can no longer gain access through the divine and God through nature and the worship of all of the creations around. Now you have to gain access through worshiping the king, worshiping a man. And so people don't know their historical context when it comes down to their religion. And I grew up in the Christian church, so it's like I took it as my responsibility, you know what I mean, to understand why we murder in the name of God, you know what I mean, and the blasphemy that people create and stuff. And so I recognize that the pattern is that a lot of evangelical perspectives and things like that, they don't recognize that the body of Nazareth is different from the spirit of Christ. That is the biggest misconception of all. And people don't recognize the importance of the Christ story and Jesus Nazareth, because at that time, like you said, everything was becoming mythicized. So Egyptians, crater gods, Greek, you know, Rome, everything between, the Celtics and all that stuff, they're all talking about the same stories and the same beings, just in different ways. But there was no body, you know, for their saviors and their figures. So now people could just slate it as not being real, you know. And so when the Christ, the body of Nazareth was being born. That's the time period it was being born. And so the Spirit of Christ needed to walk again. So that way there can be a physical embodiment. So we can't deny it anymore. And so the whole point of that too is like, at that time period, they were murdering so many innocent people. And so there was the underworld, the spiritual world was so clogged and so like flooded with like souls that did not belong there. And so that was the whole point of the Christ story is like, he came in, he knew that the people that they loved so much was going to crucify him and murder them because they're so under the spell of superstition and under the spells of control and things like that. And so, yeah, the crucifying story comes down to, you know, just cool. Now we have a body for the Christ to be historicalized rather than mythicalized, but that Christ energy, that Christ spirit, that Christ seed is now impregnated into the worlds of earth. It's being buried, and it was that's the whole resurrection story. You know, it was allowed to light up the underworlds, light up, you know, so the souls that did not belong there could find their way out of the shadows. And so that's where the whole shadow world, you know, begins. And like you know, it was a turning event for a reason, you know. And so unfortunately though, everything became politicized after that. And so when people, you know, curse people in the name of God, or they hurt people, or they just have hate or fear back behind it, they obviously did not read the book of Revelation that talks about the Antichrist. Everyone thinks the Antichrist is supposed to be a giant figure that's going to come back and impersonate Jesus or something. No, it's people who are taking the name of God and blasphemizing it by saying, oh, I don't like you, so you're a sinner, you're going to go to hell. And they don't recognize that you're condemning one of God's creations. That is the ultimate sin right there. We're all made in the likeness of God, correct? So it's like, by you not trusting the plan and trusting God's process, you are being an antichrist. You're preaching anti-Christian values. You know what I mean? So anytime someone who comes up to me and like tries to preach hate to me, I just let them know. I put the mirror up. I'm just like, I thank you for letting me know that you're an antichrist. And they get so shocked every time. But I'm just like, you are preaching anti-Christian values. Where in the quotes with the red does Christ directly say these things? You're following the words in the black, which is the historical context of humanity. So you're telling me that you are the ones who would crucify Christ because you worship the body of Nazareth, not the spirit of Christ. So that is the biggest, you know, thing about me when I study Christ. I consider myself a Christologist, which, you know what I mean? I study, you know, all Christ figures, you know, from Buddha to Osiris, you know, Hermes Trismegistus. They're all adding, you know, to the same narratives. It's just they didn't have a body to be historicalized. So they're considered not real, but the body of Nazareth is real and it's historicalized. But there's a lot of misconception because it's been politicized. So I'm trying to clear that up, you know, because I took the time, you know, to read, you know, this 1,000-page mystical literature with help, of course. You know what I mean? I can't do it myself. Miss SparkNotes is a great tool for everybody. You know, like, I don't know. People really be going to these buildings and having a man explain them, you know, the interpretations of 1,000-page mystical literature, but they haven't read, you know, a book past 500 pages before. And so it's like, you know, why are you letting someone interpret mysticism to you if they don't know how? So my dad's been very big on like, your body is your church, wherever you worship is your church, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, he didn't recognize how mystical he really is, but like, he's always never really understood organized religion. And so, but he's always believed in God, you know, he's always believed in Christ. And so, yeah, but he grew up in a time where he didn't have the time and the ability to read and to have the internet, you know, to find out all the other misconceptions out there, you know, and plug all the stories together. So that's why, you know, I definitely taken that Starchild energy, because it's like, I'm a rare being, you know, no one should compare their path to mine, you know, because it's like, this lifetime I got very lucky because in my last lifetimes, you know, I was a child of the streets. You know what I mean? I've always been, I know in my heart, like my past selves have always been somewhat abandoned or something in between. And I don't know, I've always just been so abused essentially. And this lifetime I didn't experience that. So my shadow self had to inflict pain on me. And so I could gain connection to those. And, so getting through the shadow world is very, very important. I think a lot of us in the spiritual community, we love to focus on light work, but shadow work is, you know, the prerequisite in order to achieve true light. And yeah, I forgot the original question. I kind of went on a rant here.
The what you're bringing up, first of all, is like it's a valuable workshop. It's valuable information. There are versions of of the Bible. There are versions from that are, but none said so eloquently as you have. I like your version better. Kind of comes from reading. It comes from
right
from
from linguistical sciences.
One thing that was, I know, right? Haters try to hate, but like now they got to work a little harder now because you come back with information. Y'all going out there working from love and light is fine, but like don't make it too easy for the trolls, please.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like let's raise the consciousness.
Yeah, speaking of raising the consciousness, and speaking of like Christ consciousness, which is, another term of like almost like elevating to that 5D consciousness, the place where your magic exists. And for anybody listening who understands just like levels of frequency, there also is a fairy kingdom too. So I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
I've said that on the podcast before, but anything that you can think of, like
I've seen a fairy before. Have you?
No.
Oh,
Did you hear the disappointment? Did you?
I did. It'll happen now that we're speaking about it. You know how that works, but
that's so true. Thank you.
Yeah, just be in your most lightest frequency for sure, and they reveal themselves to who knows they won't get squished. Essentially, they like to be those little. You ever see like a long fly? Like it's like I don't even know how to explain it, but like. They disguise as flies, but it's either green or white. And when you're at a certain frequency, you just feel it. It's a feeling. It's like I was like, oh, it's a fly, and then you're like, wait, I think it's a fairy, and then you're like, oh. And like they vibe with you, and it's like I never like spoke to them or anything, but like yeah, when you're having conversations like these with friends and stuff, like, and there's like a light around or something like that, they'll circle around that light, and it's usually like you'll notice it because like their bodies. I wish I could kind of draw it out, but like yeah, it's very like that big and green or white usually, and it's like they have the like longer wings that are a little bit longer than a fly, almost kind of like dragonfly like, but they're very very tiny, very skinny, and like you'll know the difference, you know what I mean? But that's how they cloak themselves, is they cloak themselves looking like flies, because anyone else who would see them would probably hurt them. So yeah.
Well, you are a very powerful manifester. You're a very powerful magician in this timeline. And I say that because number one, I can't keep up with everything you're doing. Ain't nobody got time for that. Like,
I'm dead.
Like Starchild be like quantum, like doubling, cloning. What is going on? Recording, posting, merch. I mean, I don't understand. Like, I would love if you could give a nugget to anyone listening of how they can tap into their inner witch, because you do make it look easy. You really is it?
Thank you. Oh my gosh. The simpler things are the hardest to grasp. That's like the best way to describe magic for me, and manifesting and stuff. It's a lot more inner work, behind the scenes. You guys are definitely seeing, like the success of it all now roll out and stuff like that. But the aches and the pains and, the teeter-totter of suicidal ideation, everything between, like you got to get through that, in order to be able to be perceived like this. So it's, I don't know, for me, it comes down to trusting in your inner voice. And for me, I had a very rough 2 years before this, before Totally and everything like that. Like it was obviously the pandemic that was going on and stuff like that. So that really allowed me to address things that I was ignoring. 2017, I had my awakening. I thought I figured it all out. I was like, yeah. But then I gained a very big imposter syndrome in like 2018. So it's literally the year after, it was like everything felt like it was going for me. So it's just kind of going on a little bit of tangent, but basically I had to learn how to trust myself, and I had to learn how to trust my heart and really have an ego death. Like you can't let your ego really be behind you. So it's hard. It is hard. It's not easy at all. And you're seeing basically 8 years worth of, reading, researching, poetry, writing, journaling, therapy, and light magic. So a lot of candle magic, a lot of affirmations, and a lot of positive thoughts, and you're rewiring your subconscious brain. TikTok, love her. She came into my life in a way that I did not expect. Just like cards, tarot cards and stuff really have helped me. But yeah, as when it comes down to manifesting, it does come down to letting go and not trying to manifest too big right away either. Manifest inner healing first, and then the rest kind of starts to follow. So that's the main focus, I think, because unfortunately we have a very materialistic view upon manifesting, like wealthy people manifest or whatever, but we don't recognize that, like, if you're a true light manifester, you're going through the hardest trenches until you're out of it, and then you get to, receive the work that you worked on. Or if you take shortcuts, you're more focused on the short term, effects versus the long term consequences. So it's like, right. It's a battle of that, understanding, like, if you want true obtainable happiness, because you have to remember all possibilities exist. And for me, my philosophies come down to remembering that everything is a grand what if. There's a positive what if, there's a negative what if. So it all just depends on where you're directing your energy. So I'm really just focused on, energy practice in general, raising energy, and looking within, and really addressing, the problems in your life and figuring out how to clear them, whether that is smudging every day, with sage and Palo Santo and juniper and mugwort, and incense, and raising the aroma around your spaces so you can feel that energy and step into it. And then, just trusting in the spiritual entities, trusting in the sun, trusting in the moon, trusting in the earth, trusting in the creator. I'm a big believer of Trinity magic. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit, mind, body, soul, whatever you want to call it, it's all rule of 3. Everything comes back down to the magic number 3. So numerology, and just really taking your time is really the goal, is because once you start taking your time, you start recognizing, oh, I'm in control of time, like perception is time. And why am I going to care? Like, your ego is always going to try to pop in. It's never going to die, obviously, but like, you need better techniques, at like personifying it and fighting it, because that's really what I started doing in the last 2 years, was personifying these darker entities that were within me, not actual spiritual entities, but like yourself. You're the darker sides of yourself. And, recognizing, like, okay, so, my ego, you want to name it, I name mine seppuku because they're always trying to fucking kill me, and, I'm just having hope. And, I'm gonna leave everyone with this too. Get in touch with your mirror self. I didn't learn about that until 2 years ago. And that's really,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't hear about it until lovely TikTok. Don't know, honestly, if the creator is a real human or an AI. Don't know the filters that they're using. I can't tell nowadays, but wisdom nonetheless was being dropped. Yeah. So she was very, very articulate in talking about your mirror self as a human. And so whenever you look in the mirror, and if you look at that other person and you don't recognize that is another entity in the spiritual realm that is viewing life through mirrors, because they're that self in you that is always trying to tell you to kill yourself. That's always trying to take you into that mirror. So I had really bad suicidal ideation since I was 13, and I didn't kick it until like 2 years ago. So it was all really kind of is very new and very out of the tunnel of darkness, very fresh. So yeah, that is what helped me, because so she was explaining that if you're not aware of it, your mirror self is aware of you. And that means they're the ones driving your thoughts. They're the ones driving your car. They're the ones who are making the bigger influences on your physical than your actual self. And so you need to cut that tether off. And it's kind of like that movie Us. I don't know if you've ever seen it by Jordan Peele, but it's basically, talking about being tethered, to your shadow or whatever. So yeah, once I became aware of that self, and I became aware that my thoughts are coming from that person in the mirror, because if I do kill myself, that is where I will end up. I won't ascend, to the higher realms. I won't even go to a lower realm. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to stay living immortal for sure, but I'm not infinite. And like, you get to view life through the mirrors, and that's it. So you never get to truly live. So you're bored. You're so bored. And so you want to cause as many people, to come into the mirror so you're not lonely. But then you recognize that you are lonely because it's been you the whole time. So yeah, that really helped me a lot. Being aware of that and naming it and personifying it. And so whenever I do have any negative thoughts and stuff, I am like, oh, I know where that's coming from, and I'm not going to listen to it. Because why? I'm the one that's real. I'm the one that's here. I'm the one that's can talk in the mirror and still go live life and go do something and make choices, and recognizing the power of your choices and recognizing that, thoughts create reality. There's so many philosophers. I forgot the name of the philosopher, but some philosopher in the 20s he said that whatever a man thinks is the reality they become, and it's very true. So it's like understanding, talking about yourself in a positive light is very important, not for just like the trendiness of it, but because you need that. You need to rewire your subconscious brain. So I think also too, internally, I always knew that we had 3 sides of our brain, but once I forgot where I read it, but you have your conscious, your subconscious, but when you sync those together, you become super conscious and you become aware, and you understand the power of vibration, the power of frequency, and the power of sound. There's a reason why the first quote in the Bible is God said, let there be light, because we're commanding spells, we're commanding reality into existence. Anyone who says that the Bible's not a giant book of spells, they said, let there be light, and he said, and so shall it be done, and it is good. That's all I got to say on that. That's on period.
Oh my gosh, the truth that you're dropping today. Y'all are getting spoiled. Spoiled. It's one truth bomb after another truth bomb after another truth bomb. But it was so cool to share your journey, because you could give the cookie cutter feel good answer that's all over TikTok, all over, which is light work, only light work.
Right.
But what about shadow work? Only light work.
Right. Yeah. It's like, darling, your shadow is gonna come knocking on your door when you're not ready, and you're gonna be like, what the heck? Yeah.
And you can speak on it with such conviction now, and with such power, and with such resonance that it gives us chills, because you've done your work. You're doing your work now. You've been in the underworld and back, and you're coming back, speaking. This is how I experience you. I feel like you're speaking from both dimensions at the same time. I think you're able to relate to people here because of your humor, your charming personality, your education, and then at the same time, from like that other like energetic dimension, pulling down the downloads. Because who could relate if you were only living, right, in place? And I feel that from you, because it's so digestible. I'm literally getting chills right now. And you talked about the power of sound, which let's talk about that. Can we talk about the power of sound? Can we talk about the power of music and what you are bringing now to people to kind of lead them into the light? You've got singles, you've got music, you've been writing for a while, and there's an album coming out. So, I have so many questions for you, because I first discovered "Come to the Sun," which I love, and it inspired me to have a relationship with the sun. And can we do a little song association? I'm going to name a track, and then you kind of tell a story about it. And let's start right there. You're down with that? You're down with that? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Come to the Sun. Let's start there.
Yeah. Come to the Sun is my baby. So as you know, I've been acting since for a long time. So that was my point into the world of creativity. But when I was a child, though, before I got into acting and discovered that, I always told my parents and people, I was like, I'm gonna be a rock star. Like, and everyone like laughs and whatever. And I'm like, yeah. And then as a child, my voice is developing. So like, I was like, oh, wait, actually, I don't think I have a good voice. And then so, got into acting and, that's very grateful for it because my mindset definitely comes from an actor's mindset and like being able to put yourself into other people's shoes and having that empathy and not judging people. Because when you're an actor, you can't judge your characters, so it's like, I don't know, that definitely has saved me and helped me a lot. And so when it came to music is always just something I love naturally, and just like listening to music and analyzing lyrics. And I'm a big lyrical person. I love lyrics, and I've always been a writer since I was a kid. By the time I was 13 years old, I was like, I'm writing a book. And I've been like that ever since. Nothing published, but definitely been writing. And so in 2019, I was working at a movie theater. And this is when I was like in my peak, like witchiness. So like 2019, I felt like I got my power back. Because 2018, I was a little boy. Like I said, imposter syndrome and stuff like that. And then 2019, I was definitely fighting my imposter syndrome, and acting was kind of taking off at that time for me. Like I had a manager, agent, like the full works, going on big auditions and stuff. And I was like, all right, like believing in myself and casting these light magical spells up in the air is like, it's coming true. Here we go. And so I was working at this movie theater, and I was like, I don't know why, I just had like these lyrics in my head, which is the hook, which is like, come to the sun, a land of fun, run to the sun, a land of love. And like, this is, like I said, I was in peak of like sun energy. It was like out in the sun all the time, drawing the magic and just like bringing it down and, raining it with myself. Also, a good coven is very much needed in your magical practice. It doesn't have to be as serious as it is, but having good friends with you along this journey goes a very long way. Shout out to my coven. I love you guys. But yeah, so I was writing the lyrics in the box office. I was taking tickets, and it was like so slow that night. So I wrote this song at a movie theater, my movie theater job, and I was feeling it. I was like, this is something. And like, I don't know, but I've never wrote music like that before, and like didn't know where I can take it. And so I kind of tried practicing a little bit on GarageBand. Like, this ain't happening. I'm not a producer. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I think I need to pay somebody. And then I was looking into studio time and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, this is expensive. I'm like, what? No. How am I going to, what? Okay. Looks like the music journey is going to just take 10 million years. And the universe said, actually, it's not. We're going to backtrack real quick. In 2018, I got an audition for America's Got Talent, and it was on my birthday, like to like audition on my actual birthday. Like that's what it was funny because when I was a kid, when I was getting into acting and stuff, I always thought like auditioning before I actually started auditioning was like it's this big cattle call every time, that you see in the movies. And when you actually go on your audition, you're just in like someone's office with a white wall and a camera, and you're done. And I'm like, so that moment allowed me to have that cognitive like dream that I had as a child of like having my family there, having this big moment, and like everyone who was there were like, oh wow, your voice is beautiful, you're a fucking star, like everything. I got interviewed and stuff, so my hopes were through the roof. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting on it, like it's on my birthday, like the magic, like the heck. But obviously, the game is rigged when it comes down to those types of TV shows. I have this B-roll for them.
Wait,
what? Oh yeah, those auditions are just giant B-roll. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wait, yeah. Hollywood is fake?
Oh my God. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk it? So yeah, I was trying to convince myself afterward, but I didn't get the call. Like, I'm fine. We've been on thousands of auditions, got rejected before. We're fine. But yeah, the universe knew like that I was hurt. And so when I was writing this song, got the inspiration for it. I was at the box office the next day, and I was just like joking. I was literally joking with my coworkers. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. By the end of the day, I'm like, someone's like, a producer's gonna reach out to me or whatever. It's gonna happen. You don't even know, because like they're like questioning my power and my magic. And the universe said, "You don't believe this little bitch? Okay." And so my producer who produced the song, he hit me up on Instagram because he saw me covering Pretty When I Cry by Lana Del Rey. And he was like, "Hey, you have a really good voice and it's very unique. And I'm helping younger artists right now create songs and singles." And he gave me all his information. And I looked into him and to see if he was legit, and he was. And he's produced for Fergie, he's produced for Bone Thugs and Harmony, and he's produced for like a variety of slew of artists. And I was like, I'm at work. This is happening 20 minutes after I said, "Yeah, I'm going to manifest a producer." And it did. And I was like, what? And so, yeah, long story short, that's how Come to the Sun got approached. And he made the beat for me. And so I edited the lyrics around it and we recorded it. And he gave me a really good deal. Come to the Sun was made for $800, which is very, 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 very rare in the music industry. One song is like $1,200. So yeah, and so from there, I kind of worked with him, and we created my first 3 singles. So we created Come to the Sun, and we created a song called Si Se Puede, and we created Golden Chariot, which is out now. And so that was my introduction to the music world. And he gave me some good advice, and he was like, creating the music is the easy part. Distributing it and getting it out there and getting it heard is the hard part. And I'm like, okay. And so, yeah, I just, that brought me into the music world, and it brought me back to this theater sense of feeling. Cause like I was getting a little burnt out from just going on 1,000 auditions a week and not hearing back from anybody and everything in between. And my depression was like flexing and flaring up, and like, I needed a break from the world of acting. And so I took a break and I dove into music and started performing at the Whiskey A Go-Go and just like different little spots and like building a live music, journey and, figuring it out. And the pandemic happened after I headlined Whiskey A Go-Go, my birthday of February 9th in 2020. And then the pandemic happened next month. And so that really like took me out, and like, I was like, ooh, my plans are shot. I don't know what to do, so I had to grow up a lot, which was nice. And through that, I was writing a lot. And I got a job at a nonprofit, and I met a lot of good friends who also do music and stuff. And so they also kind of like showed me some ropes of like how they find their beats and producers and stuff. And so I found a lot of great producers on YouTube, and I wrote lyrics. And so that's where We Have the Power kind of came through, and I have a couple of other songs. Yeah.
Let's talk about You Have the Power, which is so like bluesy. It's got this almost Richie Valens vibe from like a very 60s, 50s ballad of like, oh my God, like it just sings to my soul. Talk about it.
Oh my God. Yes. So I discovered that beat on YouTube. I believe the producer, his name is Dan Dorman or Bloom. I don't remember which one, but I heard the beat and the same reactions. I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of like my grandpa. This reminds me of like you said, Richie Valens. I grew up very much listening to that era of music, and I love the 60s in general. And like, that's just like, I knew I lived in the 60s back then for sure, my past life. And so like, it was just like you said, just very dreamy, and the lyrics just flew out of my mouth. Like when I started to sing it, and I was like, and so I started writing it. I believe I was in a park. Like I believe it was at Griffith Park when I discovered the beat. And yeah. And I think I was also playing like Hooky from work too. Like I like called out of work or something. So it was, it was very like that energy. And I completed the song at the park, and at least the first half of the song, I think. And the chorus for sure. And so and also just reminded me of this, like, I don't know what the name of the song is, but like, I remember it was in Charlie's Angels too. And it was the scene where Dylan was talking to one of the old angels when she was in Mexico. And it just had this like string guitar beat that reminded me of that. And I was just like, this is a vibe. Like, this is it, And yeah. And so that was actually written in 2021 and toward the tail end. And then my mom surprised me for Christmas booking studio time with my producer to do the vocals and the mix and the master. And so, yeah, no, I was very blessed. And from there, that's, you know, I was just going to do an EP. I was going to do, you know, the 4 songs and that one, the 3 songs and that one. And so we started filming the music video, and it was really funny because the Hollywood sign shot music video, that's what held up everything, because they were doing construction up there and you could not go up there. But what's really funny is, like, symbolically, like, I was also under construction too. And, you know, so like I ended up finding the other beats and wrote, you know, the other songs to the album that has people haven't heard yet. And then through Instagram and through posting my covers, like always doing stuff like that, I got hit up by my final producer, and his name is Tristan Boston, and he won a Grammy for producing Damian Marley's album back in 2018 or something like that. And he was just giving back to the community. He's like, I'm trying to help more LA artists, and I love your voice, and I've been following your page for a minute. And he's like, do you have any songs that you want to make, and blah, blah, blah. And so, long story short, told him my songs and this and that. And he quoted me $1,000 for doing a whole EP, doing the whole album. So yeah, he only charged me $1,000. A Grammy Award winner, by the way, charged me $1,000 to complete my album and do the final mix and master and like the final like layering of like just. What he told me is like, I want to add some seasoning, some spice to what you already have to make it even better. And that's what he did, honestly. And like Hollywood, We Have the Power. My favorite part in it wasn't in the original like track. Like there's like a little like a horn track toward the chorus, and like that wasn't in there, and it was such a great addition. And I was like so happy that like he was able to update that. And even Come the Sun, like, it doesn't sound too different, but me as the artist, like I can tell the differences. So it's like there's like the little hints of magic in there somehow. And I was like, okay, cool. And so yeah, that's what kind of prepped me for this year, you know, and where we're at right now, you know, the rollout of music, because we were able to complete the music video for We Have the Power. And I just kind of set goals and deadlines for myself, and I was able to meet them, thank God. And, you know, now here we are. You know, I can't mention this just yet, but things are going very good business-wise, meaning like, you know, people have hit me up, and, you know, there's going to be, it's getting bigger than I anticipated, but also anticipated, but like, it's barely feeling real. But yeah, big things are coming for sure, which is crazy. But it all came down to me posting, you know, it all comes down to me putting myself out there and not comparing myself either to other artists who are getting more views or likes or whatever, you know, and just keeping in the back of my mind, you know, that like, it's about the quality of the people who are finding you, you know, and remembering that like, yeah, I may not have 1,000 people liking me right now, but like the 100 that are, they're gonna be so thankful, you know, when 1,000 people start liking me. They're like, I came here first, you know, I knew them before they blew up and stuff. So that really means a lot to me. And like, just the outpour of support is just so amazing. Because the guy, just like I said, I've been silently suffering for a long time, and like getting through that was very hard, you know, like, and I didn't recognize that like a lot of people go through it, but a lot of people don't at the same time. There's a good chunk of people that I've talked to, like, oh, I could relate to, you know, we try to kill ourselves a million times or whatever. But then there's a lot of people that like, oh, I've never had suicidal ideation. And I'm just like, oh, I'm like, sorry, that you're one of the please let us understand. But I didn't recognize like how big of a part that is of my life, you know, and like how I can use that, you know, to help people and to let people know like you are going to get through it if you tell yourself you are, and you work on it, and you believe it, you know, and it will come true. It takes a long time, takes a lot of scars, but like you get there in the end. And yeah, and that's what I hope my music can bring. You know, I want to bring, you know, allowing yourself to shed your darkness to the light and to remain hopeful and to believe in the cliches. That's what's helping me. Like, people love to diss on cliches, but they're the truth, you know? There is a tunnel at the end of the light, indeed. And I didn't believe it for a long time. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be depressed forever. Like, this is going to be just my lifestyle, I guess, you know? And no, once you address, you know, the things that keep pulling you back and keep cycling you, you know, you begin to battle it. You begin to fight it. And yeah, you begin to add in, your magical stuff, your rituals and everything. So yeah, I hope my music allows people to feel magical and allows people to tap into the magic of the sun, because we wake up with it every day, and just remembering the elements. And yeah, I just want to incorporate everything I can in music, because music is very powerful and you can get your message across faster and catchier. And I also want to make people recognize, like, we can have cute pop beats and still bring wisdom to it. It doesn't have to all be, let's go dance under the moonlight in the club. It's like, let's go cast some spells under the moonlight. What about that? So yeah, no, I just kind of want to shift the game a bit and, just be independent and just rock and roll. I want to bring the spirit of rock and roll back to pop music and everything in between, and just call the world out for what it is. Because I'm 26 years old now, so it's like I have my authority. I've gained it, and this is the observations of myself of 26 years. This is what I've been talking about since I was a kid. Like, everyone who's talking about the issues that are going on right now, the strike, child trafficking issues, trafficking in general, everything in between. Like, ever since I was 14, 15 years old, I was already advocating for this. I was talking about, like, hey, maybe like while the adults like go on strike, like, we can get things done. Here we are, 12 years, 15 years later, but it's happening, by putting those words out there, those thoughts, like, you are seeing them physically crystallize. So like, literally keep talking is my advice. Is just keep putting it out there and keep talking with intention. Don't just talk out of anything, talk with intention, set intentions and set goals, and release expectations. That is like the biggest thing that helped me get to where I'm at, is that I recognize that you set expectations, you're only going to get disappointment, because nothing is ever as you expect. It's only going to set goals and executions with your intentions, and you will definitely see yourself happier in a better light. Because yeah, I've expected good lessons came about, to get to that point in my consciousness. But yeah, I don't know, just trusting yourself and your intuition and listening. And it's hard for sure, because there's so much going on, but deep down we have this innate voice and feeling, and there is a higher plan happening. And also, just read all the prophecies. You're really gonna I'm not going to be the one that's going to be a smart aleck and say the Hopi and the Peruvian and the Egyptian and like all of us talk about the rainbow crystalline children and everything in between that's happening. Like, it is happening. It is already happening in front of our freaking faces, down to the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about the split of consciousness? Like, it's right in front of your face when you read that. Like, what are ya? Like are we anchoring a new version of ourselves, or are we sticking to the past, and that's where you're gonna stay? And like, yeah. So that's what I'm trying to bring to my music.
Wow! Oh, wow! How do we unpack? Yeah, we are entering this new, truer version of ourselves, and of course, so many people want to back you up and support you because they want to be a part of what you are building. Some people are meant to be the observers. Some people are meant to be the practitioners. Now it's switched around. You are the practitioner, and the observers who are ready to be led into a new world of being, a new consciousness, want to be a part of what you're building, because they're not necessarily meant to be the builders, but they get to be a part of that. You truly are, as your next single says, you are the Sun King. and you're inviting people to hop on the golden chariot to the sun. And like, you have the power. You are funding a better world. I think that is the plan. You're ready to do it.
100%, because it's a choice. You know what I mean? That's the key that we need to remember, going through this renaissance and revolution that we're going through again. It's good to remember that all of the groundwork has been laid out for us. And so now we're in an age of information where we are globally connected for the first point in time in human history that we have a record of. I don't know what they were doing up in the ancient times with their technology. We're not gonna go into that real quick, but we're not so different from our ancients, and we need to harness that ancient power again, and we need to recognize that the power of our choices. If world destruction is happening. That means someone is choosing to fund it that way. If everything comes down to funding, correct? You are what we fund. Then it's a choice. You can fund world peace because there's already solutions in place. There's multiple nonprofits that just don't have the mass funding that mass destruction projects have, So do we need to keep creating more hotels and more luxury leisure things that no one else can obtain other than a certain percentage of people of the population? Or should we take that funding and those investments and we fund them into the nonprofits that are trying to solve the problems that people complain about the most, and most likely the wealthy people complain about the most? And it's like, well, darling, let's have an execution of currency. Is your vacation home worth more than my life or someone else's life? I need to know your truth. That's where I'm at kind of right now, going forward in this battle of the wealthy and everything between the ultra wealthy. It's recognizing they need to answer. It's like, is your business ethic? Do you value life over profit, or are you a person that values profit over life? And that is when I need all those business leaders. Live your truth, baby. I don't care if you're a fucking evil ass person, Satanist, everything between. At least let me know on your profiles, your Instagram, your website, so the consumer has a choice.
Yourself.
You know what I mean? Exactly. Reveal yourself. That is the goal. And I'm recognizing going forward in the future that what's going to happen, what it's going to come down to, the people are going to organize and mobilize and recognize that the world is just a battle of advertisement. That's all it is. How do you think we get subconsciously manipulated every single day? Through advertisements.
Advertisement and attention. And whoever
exactly
gets your attention, for those 3 seconds, for those 5 seconds, has the monopoly, and they're all fighting for your attention, for your time. We've all been part of their experiment, but now we're waking up to it, and the light is shining. You're shining a light just like the sun.
Thank you.
I got to ask you, so for anyone who wants to kind of experience your light, experience your magic in person, what have you got going on? You got events coming up soon? You got
Yeah, I do. I'm performing a 45-minute set at Cafe Gratitude in Larchmont, California. Yes! It is a celebrity hotspot. Woody Harrelson came in twice this week. Okay. The strike is going down the street as well. So it is a great, place to potentially see a famous face other than me. But no, it's a really awesome spot. If you love healthy food, you love just cool cuisines, and it's all vegan. It's all 100% organic too. So it's even for meat eaters out there, they have stuff for you. That's is so good. And I'm going to be singing there. It's going to be great. It's their second event, and I'm going to sing a couple of my originals. I won't be singing Golden Chariot because it's just a little bit of a smaller space, and that's such a big performing song, so I can't be doing that. But I do have a very sultry set. I have my music. I'll be covering some Amy, some Lana, some Fleetwood Mac, some Dolly Parton. So yeah, we got the vibes laid up for sure. And then there's awesome performers performing after me as well. The Sun Season Band, they're so amazing. They're a really great folk sound. And then a star, Giovanna, she's an icon. She has this beautiful sultry R&B voice, and that's she has a song Getaway. Go stream it, it's so good. But yeah, she's performing that song as well, and all her set and stuff. And it's just going to be such a fun event, and people, it's going to be great, So if you want to come see me, you want to come support, definitely come to Cafe Gratitude in Larchmont. You'll see the man of the hour, Mr. Charlie right over here. Yeah, it's going to be good. I promise you, you're going to love it. And yeah, I'm also trying to book some more shows though in the fall in general as well. Coming. So I'll be putting those announcements up. Yeah, exactly.
They're already on their way. Your calendar is already booked. You get to be choosy with how you spend it, because you are in that frequency, and we'd all like to know how you're doing it. And we gotta get through our shadow work in order to get there.
Exactly. That's what it is. Getting through your shadow work. follow Witchy Wednesday. I'll keep giving you guys some tips. I have been slacking. I haven't been putting them out, but definitely, learn about. So these are the points that I'll make for everybody who wants to get to a place where I'm at. Yes, discover your inner being first and foremost and personify it. Mine is Starchild. I figured that out through reading and through feeling connected through music and the symbols of music. I'm a different entity, but everyone else, they have their story. You have your myth that you feel attached to, and live up to that. Try to create that, try to anchor that, try to live by those values, and learn the importance of colors. Learn the importance of symbols and what they mean, and learn the importance of light, so meaning candles and clearing your energy through smudging and baths and water, and remembering just the 5-pointed star. Fire, earth, water, air, and spirit. Those are the things that you want to work with. And always remember, whatever you send out comes out back to you ×3. So you want to have clear intentions. You want to make sure that you are not living your life in vain. You're living your life within your mind and your body and your soul. So my thing is that I started recognizing, why can we accept at blind value that we can sync our iPhones to our MacBooks, but we don't know as humans that we can sync our energy to the sun and to the moon and to the earth, because it's frequency and vibrational based. And we don't recognize we could sync our mind, our heart, and our body as an organism working to each other. They're 3 separate entities, but they all connect. And so learning how to connect those thoughts, reading some good books and going on YouTube and, figuring out what works for you and developing your craft. The Goodly Spell Book, I forgot the name of the authors. It's 2 authors, but look into that book if you want to learn about the history of witchcraft and why it's been demonized and how people have been hurt by those people who have hurt these people who just, read tea leaves. And then it's good at showing you the practice. So like everything from the elements to the 4 corners, and the pentagram and the circle of power and the rule of 3 and stuff like that. And then it goes into numerology and the days of the, it's just that's where I got my foundation, is that book. So the books that I recommend to really give you some knowledge and give you some power within yourself is the Goodly Spell Book and the Secret Teachings of All Ages. Those are the 2 that you can just read. They're too long of books. It took me like 2 years to get through them, but they're packed with information. Take it at your own pace. Don't rush. There's no race. There's no time. You are your own measure. You are the prize. And remembering that, we live in a world of illusions. So which illusion are you going to create? Which illusion you're going to give power to? You're going to give illusion to the ones that take your power, or you're going to give illusions to the ones that give you power? And also remember, there's 2 choices. You can believe in the power of love, or you can believe in the love of power. Which one are you going to execute? And that's how I live my life with those questions.
Starchild. Wow. You are wildly successful already.
Thank you.
What you are doing in music, and the truth that you're giving is one thing. And please, if you've got space at some point in your journey, maybe 5 years, 10 years, and you're curious about doing a tour of public speaking, because you
Thank you.
Let's add more to your plate.
Right. I'm sure it's definitely in the conveyor belt for sure. Like, I'm sure if an opportunity comes, it'll happen.
The chill. Yeah. Things, you simplify it, but there's so much power behind it. I'm sure you've been told this before, but I've got chills all over. I'm like, oh my gosh, the truth is hitting me from a different, from a different space when your words are spoken. Oh God, yeah. Thank you for sharing the power of your voice with us today.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me, for giving me the space. We need people like you to cut and carve spaces like this. I love conversations like this. I have them all the time with my friends and my family. So anyone who is watching this, you already know that these are just dinner conversations for me. So it's like, thank you for allowing this to be public, and to be on record and to share this to people, because it's sometimes I speak into dead space, but then I recognize I'm not, it's going places,
It's hitting. It's hitting. It's hitting. And today, how can people follow you? How can they find you? And how can they download? Because I know downloading your music is a good thing. It's a helpful.
Yeah.
It's better. Not better. But okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Yes. So you can follow me at Starchild 1997. That's where I post all of my updates on my music and spirituality talks and everything in between. And sometimes even if I find something on TikTok, I'll post it on my story or my feed. Like this past week, I shared a video of this one woman, this creator, who's kind of just talks about everything that I was talking about, the Bible and stuff, and Christianity in general, and the symbolism between it. And it was so well articulated, and she was, she's an older woman, so I was like, this is wisdom, like let me share it. So sometimes I do things like that. And yes, as for my music, iTunes is obviously, if you've got an iTunes account, definitely download it on there. You can download it on Amazon Music as well. So anywhere you can, if there's a price on it, $1 or something, like that's where you want to get it. But streaming, it's since I'm an independent artist, it does come back to me. But the payouts are just a little bit, obviously, I won't get the exact dollar. But so yeah, I take the support anywhere, honestly. If you want to go on starchildmedia.com, that's where you can find some merch. I haven't updated my store, so it's a little still like winter springy, but there's going to be some summer stuff coming. That's where you can
cover the merch too. Oh, sorry. It's just... Let's create. Oh, there it is. Tomorrow, I manifested. Like, look at that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. You thanked me for providing the space. I'm thanking you for providing the space. You've been providing the space everywhere you go, and you're providing the groundwork for people to awaken safely. Shadow work isn't easy. It's necessary. But if you have a container in which to grow on soil that is contained, safe, and with someone who's willing to give their wisdom from the heart space for your highest good, then take full advantage of it. You are the lucky ones to be in the presence of Starchild.
Oh, I'm the lucky one.
Well, on that note, let's take our luck and our magic and go out there and go like make more stuff happen. Making my sing today. Making my thank you.
Oh, no, honestly, yes. Thank you. And I'm very proud of you and everything that you're doing. I've been watching your episodes and they're very informative, and I just love the guests that you bring on, and just keep going. Like, it's going to grow. And it is growing, first and foremost. It's already happening. But yes, just like, I know this game and this business is, those numbers can really mess with our brains. So just don't focus on it, and just focus on these conversations and focus on what you're creating. And I promise you, like, you are going to see all the things that you're manifesting come into your life. So just keep working. You got this.
I made it. I almost made it the whole thing. Don't do it. Don't
cry. Don't shed that tear.
Don't do it.
I'm giving a big hug. I love you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we're doing love. We're doing life right now. Exactly. Thank you, my friend. I will see you at the top.
Yes, I will be seeing you there. I already know you were there. So yeah. Thank you again. Yes. You have a good rest of your day. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to my cousin. Love you all.